Almost nothing on the calendar makes me more enthusiastic and hopeful than turning it over to a brand new year. And I am so excited to begin 2026 with you on Homemade Simple. Thank you for being here today. I am really excited to share this video with you because I hope that it can be a resource to help you throughout the year. Whenever you are hitting a little bit of a lull in your meal planning, you can come back to this video, find a couple of these meals that your family will enjoy, plug it into your weekly meal plan, and then you can go from there. Today, I'm gonna share with you 20 frugal, healthy, whole food, easy to prepare recipes that you can make for your family throughout the year without them getting tired of them at all. These are some of my family's very favorite recipes. I'm gonna go through them as quickly as I can, so the transitions will be quick, but I'm gonna put tabs between each one of the meals so they will be easy to find, and hopefully that will make it an easy resource for you to use throughout the year. Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. A white chicken enchilada recipe with green chilies. I'm going to use a rotisserie chicken for this recipe. Hopefully this recipe will turn out. Let's see how it goes. White chicken enchiladas. It's time to make our broth. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of butter and melt that in my saucepan. Now that the butter is all melted, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of flour, and I'm going to whisk that until it's good and smooth, and I'm going to keep whisking it slowly and let it cook for about a minute. Now I'm going to slowly add 2 cups of chicken broth, and I'm going to let this cook for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's thickened. I'll stir it every little bit. Okay, it's thickened up really quick. While I was waiting for it to thicken, I chopped up my bell pepper. I'm just gonna add this to the broth to sort of let it soften a little. Now I'm gonna add 1 can of diced green chilies and then 1 cup of yogurt. You can also use sour cream. It's your choice. Okay, I'm gonna stir that together. Okay, now I'm gonna take my fresh mozzarella and sort of chop it up. The main goal is just to get it in smaller chunks so that when I put it into the sauce, it will completely melt. So any way you wanna do that is fine. I'm gonna bring the sauce over and just put all of this mozzarella cheese into the saucepan and mix it up. I'm going to take about 2/3 of the sauce and just spread it on the bottom of the baking dish. Now I'm going to reserve another 2/3 of my sauce for the top of the enchiladas, and then I'm going to mix the chicken and the sauce together. Me adding that mozzarella cheese really caused me some problems. Should not have done that before I reserved it. Oh well, I'm sure it'll still taste fine. Okay, now I have chopped up the 2 chicken breasts from my rotisserie chicken. I'm gonna add that to my sauce and mix it well. That's still very liquidy. I think maybe I need to add some more chicken. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, I just store-bought my tortillas. It's very easy to make your own tortillas, but I knew that I just really wasn't feeling up to doing that this week, so I just went ahead and bought them. Now I'm gonna take and fill my large tortillas with about 2/3 cup of sauce. And I'm gonna attempt to roll these. This is not working out like I expected, so we'll have to see how this goes. Spread those back out. Take my sauce and pour it over the top. Okay, I'm gonna cook this at 350 degrees until it's all nice and browned on the top. I'm figuring that's gonna take about 25 minutes. can top the enchiladas any way you like. I'm gonna top mine with some sour cream, a little bit of salsa, and some fresh cilantro. I'm gonna chop up my onion, and while I'm heating up my ground beef that I've already browned, I'm gonna heat it up in the skillet and cook this onion with it. You can also use a bell pepper if you would prefer, or also in addition, just to add a little bit more vegetables. I'm gonna just dump my 1 pound of browned ground beef in there, slide in my onion. I'm also cooking up 1 box of Rotini. I got Colby Jack. It doesn't really matter what kind of cheese you use in this recipe. Okay, so we have our 8 ounces of shredded cheese, any kind you want. I'm gonna add a bag of frozen corn because I want this to be a 1-dish meal. So I'm gonna pour that in. I'm gonna add 1 large can of crushed tomatoes, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 tablespoon of cumin, and 1 tablespoon of chili powder. I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of salt. I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees. I'm gonna add my noodles, ground beef. Okay, now I'm going to carefully mix all of this together. I'm gonna pour everything into this baking dish. Okay, I'm gonna take both of these and put them in the oven. I have it preheated for 350 degrees. I'll bake it for about 30 minutes. I'm really excited about supper tonight. This is gonna be a nice filling meal, and the cost is just so low. It's gonna definitely go on my frugal meals list. I loved this soup. It was so good, and Chris just kept talking about it throughout the week. So this soup is definitely gonna have to have a spot on our regular meal rotation. I'm just gonna saute some onions in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and after they cook down a bit, I'm gonna add some garlic powder, salt, oregano, and basil, and I'm gonna just let all of that cook together for a minute. After all of those flavors meld together, I'm gonna add 2 cans of diced tomatoes with the juices, and I'm gonna allow that to simmer. The recipe called for 6 cups of chicken broth. I also added about 2 cups of shredded chicken. After everything simmered for about 10 minutes, I'm gonna add 1 cup of heavy cream. I'm gonna pour it in slowly and allow it to mix together, and then just allow everything to simmer for another 10 minutes. I'm also gonna add about 3 handfuls of fresh spinach. This is optional, but I really feel like it added a little bit of flavor and a lot of beauty to the end result of this soup, and it's that simple and easy. Everything is all ready to go. Not only was this meal so easy to put together, it was so delicious and so perfect for all of this cold weather we've been experiencing, and it makes for perfect leftovers as well. Let's talk about a very simple and easy chicken noodle soup recipe. This soup ended up being the perfect Sunday lunch recipe for us. I'm going to chop up some onions and some carrots, and I'm going to saute them in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I added 6 cups in this recipe, but by the time that I had gotten home, the pasta had soaked up all of the broth, so I probably should have added 8 cups to begin with. I'm going to add about 2 cups of shredded chicken from the rotisserie chicken that I had in the freezer. I added 1 container of pasta. It ended up being about a pound. I really tried to be very careful not to over stir the pasta. If you do rice instead of pasta, you won't really have to worry about that, and probably this is why people use egg noodles in chicken noodle soup instead of this kind of regular pasta, because it just doesn't hold up very good. But I think after you add the noodles, 20 minutes of stovetop cooking is more than enough time for all of the flavors and the pasta to cook together perfectly. This soup recipe really stretched my limits, and I'm really glad that I tried it because it ended up being such a unique and special flavor that I think it's perfect to share with all of you. I started by sauteing some onions, and I'm also going to saute some diced chicken. After the chicken is cooked through, I'm going to add 1 can of corn and 1 can of diced tomatoes. I'm also going to add a large can of baked beans. I'm also going to add 4 cups of chicken stock and 1 cup of barbecue sauce, some cumin, chili powder, and salt. I'm going to let everything to simmer for about 30 to 45 minutes. I cooked mine a little longer because it was a little more soupy than I wanted it to be, and I wanted to give it plenty of time to cook down. So I decided to serve it with a little bit of shredded cheese and sour cream, and I still had some of these tortilla chips, so I decided to put it on the side as well. I really enjoyed this soup. It was so nice to have another soup to add to my soup list that was a little bit different and not at all ordinary. I'm going to make some fajita quinoa bowls. I'm going to start by chopping up some fresh vegetables, some bell peppers, and I had also put away some onions that I had grown in my garden earlier this year. So I'm going to start by chopping all of that up, and I'm going to saute the bell peppers and onions in an iron skillet. While I'm sauteing the onions and bell peppers, I'm also going to start heating up some water to make the quinoa. If you're not familiar with quinoa, it's like an ancient grain, pretty similar to rice. So it was a good option for my family because some of my family doesn't really like to have rice all the time. They like to have different options. So while my vegetables are cooking, I'm going to try to chop up my rotisserie chicken. I'm just going to chop the chicken up into chunks. Now it's time for me to add the quinoa and a little bit of oil to the hot water. My bell peppers and onions are cooking up really nicely, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of cumin to them. Once they are sauteed and everything is soft, I'm going to remove them from the skillet, but I'm going to keep all of the good flavor that's there in the bottom of the skillet. I'm going to add a couple of cups of water and just try to dissolve all of that baked in flavor. And then after I dissolve that pretty well in the water, I'm going to add the rotisserie chicken into the iron skillet. This is going to ensure a really flavorful chicken. Now it's time for me to put the bowls together. I'm going to layer all of the ingredients. This is a really delicious, healthy, nutritious meal that you really need to give a try. Okay, let's now talk about the most delicious salad that you could ever have. If you've ever gone to Chick-fil-A and had a market salad from there and paid like $12 for it, this is my take on that recipe, and it could not be simpler but also more delicious. I'm going to start by, again, attacking this poor rotisserie chicken. I'm just going to take all of the skin off, chop it into chunks. I'm going to set that to the side, and then I'm going to prepare the rest of the ingredients. I've got some fresh strawberries. I'm going to chop them up. I also have some blueberries. I'm going to wash them and make sure that they're nice and clean, ready to go. I've got this spring mix salad. It is available at any grocery store. You can use whatever kind of lettuce you like, but I really like this kind of lettuce. And then I'm just going to top the lettuce with all of my favorite ingredients: the chicken, the strawberries, and blueberries. Also, I'm going to add some almonds, cranberries. I've got a little bit of blue cheese. I'm going to add that as well. I have some Monterey Jack cheese that's left over from last week. I'm going to add that. Any kind of good salad ingredient you can use in this salad and it will go perfectly. So just give this recipe a try. You're not going to be sorry. It's going to be absolutely delicious. It doesn't even need a salad dressing. It's so flavorful and moist. I just know it's going to be one of your new favorites. I'm going to have a quick and easy rotisserie chicken and rice soup. I'm going to chop those ends off. I also have some onions that I had grown this spring. I've had them in the freezer. I'm going to chop them up as well, but just use whatever you have. If you have a fresh onion, that probably would work even better. I'm pretty sure they also sell a mixed bag of celery and onions in the frozen section, so that might also be a really easy and economical choice. I have some olive oil heating in my Dutch oven, So I'm gonna just saute these vegetables and then cook the soup in here. I'm gonna dice up one of these 8-ounce containers of mushrooms. You can buy them already sliced as well. Celery and onions have cooked for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna add about 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm gonna add my mushrooms, and then I have 2 cups of rotisserie chicken that I have just deboned and chopped. I will save those bones so I can make more chicken stock. And I have 1 cup of brown basmati rice, and I need to add 4 cups of chicken broth. Now what we need to do is cover it, let it simmer, let the rice cook up and be nice and tender, and then we will add our final couple of ingredients. Okay, let's see how everything is looking. I had to bring it to the back eye so that it would cook a little slower. It was boiling at the lowest setting. So all of the rice has cooked up. It's absorbed a lot of that chicken broth. So I think it's ready for our last step, and that is adding some scrambled eggs. If you cannot have dairy, this is a good way to thicken soup without using dairy. So we're going to use 3 eggs, and then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and we're going to temper it by pouring maybe a 1/4 cup of this hot broth in with the eggs. I'm gonna add it sort of slowly. Alright, I'm gonna keep stirring until this is well combined. We're gonna wait for it to thicken, and then it'll be done. We can add a little bit of pepper. I think it probably could use a little more broth at the beginning, maybe 5 or 6 cups. Mommy. That is really good. You have got to try this recipe. This is the best chicken rice soup I've ever had. I am in like such a low-key, little effort as possible kind of mood. I think we're just gonna have some Polish sausage and kraut. It's one of my favorite meals. It's really easy, super inexpensive. I've got some Brussels sprouts that I bought at Aldi in the frozen section. I'm gonna use that for my side. This is gonna be a really easy dinner to put together, and it will also be something that will reheat really well for lunch tomorrow. To get turkey kielbasa. In my opinion, turkey and beef kielbasa both taste pretty much the same. I'm just gonna slice it into maybe 1/2-inch slices. I'm heating up about a tablespoon of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. I'm just gonna add all of my 2 packages of sliced kielbasa sausage. I'm gonna let all of that brown really good. The more you allow it to sort of crisp up and brown on the side, on the edges, the better the flavor. Okay, this is cooked for probably 8 to 10 minutes, and you can see that a lot of it is nice and brown. So now it's time for me to add my sauerkraut. The good thing about cooking this kielbasa until it's browned is that that will also serve as seasoning for the kraut. So it's really good to add all of the juices in there as well, and that will be a good gauge whenever all of the juice is cooked out. That means it's just about time to eat. I think everything is ready, so it's time for dinner. I really like to make Brussels sprouts this way. It's such an easy and inexpensive way to add a lot of nutrition to your meals, but there are so many vegetables that you can do this exact same way just baking them in the oven for about 25 minutes or so while you're cooking your entree. It's a really easy way to get good, nutritious vegetables that your family will actually like to eat. Next up, let's talk about these barbecue pork rib sandwiches. I got these pork ribs, boneless pork ribs, so I'm gonna put these in the crock pot with some barbecue sauce. I'm just gonna lay these out on the bottom of the crock pot. I'm just gonna squeeze about half of the container onto the ribs, put it on high, and I'm just gonna let this cook for about 3 hours. I've never bought this cut of meat before, but boneless pork ribs is the way to go. It made these sandwiches so easy to put together, and I was sort of going for like a healthy McRib sandwich, although I don't even know if I've ever eaten a McRib sandwich before. I sort of had that in mind, and I thought it would pair perfectly with some coleslaw. So I just threw some coleslaw together, put it on top of these delicious brioche buns, and it was absolutely one of my favorites. Inexpensive meals and potatoes just seems to be the perfect combination. So let me tell you how I made this super easy baked potato bar for my family. I'm just going to take like half of the bag. I wanted to make sure everybody had enough, so I made enough for everybody to have 2 potatoes, and I'm just going to wash them with my new dish scrubber that I absolutely love. And one very important thing that you cannot forget to do is poke holes in your potatoes. It's really important. They will explode, so make sure you don't skip that step. I'm going to put them in the crock pot, pour about 1.5 cups of water on top of them, put them on high, and let them cook for about 3 hours. Okay, let's hope that our potatoes are cooked through. They've been cooking on high for several hours. Oh, they're perfect. There are so many different options for things that you can choose for baked potato bar toppings, but I'm just going to keep it simple tonight. I'm going to do cheese and ham and sour cream and butter. That's it. But my family really likes ranch, so if you're a nice mom, you can add that. I'm going to dice up my ham and burn my fingers while I open the potatoes, and everybody can just add whatever toppings that they want. One thing that really goes well with baked potato bar is broccoli, so if you need a little extra vegetable in your diet, try adding some boiled broccoli. It will taste really yummy. I found this turkey breast tenderloin at Aldi, marked down 30% off, so it ended up being like $4. I've never used this cut of meat before, so I'm going to wash some sweet potatoes, chop up an onion, add a couple of seasonings. This is going to be hopefully a really super simple and delicious dinner. Sweet potatoes are one of those vegetables that may be a little more tedious to prepare. You can't just throw them in water and then be ready to go, but peeling this and chopping it into pretty large chunks is all that we're going to have to do in order for these sweet potatoes to be recipe ready. I've got all of them peeled. Now comes the dangerous part of chopping them into chunks. It's very likely that I will cut my finger off, so hopefully I won't have to edit that out. But big chunks are plenty small enough because they're going to cook for several hours in the slow cooker. I'm gonna throw these in as I cook them. I'm also going to slice up this onion, let it add a little bit more flavor. I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of water. I'm gonna pour maybe a tablespoon or 2 of maple syrup onto the vegetables. Okay, surprise number 1. This is like chicken breast, except it's turkey. So I did not expect that. It smells really good. I'll just pour all of the extra seasoning onto it. I think I'll put a little bit of salt around the edges, and I'm not going to add too much because I can tell this is very flavorful. The marinade on those turkey breasts are really good. So I think I'll put it on high and let it cook for about 3 hours or so, and then I will let you know how it turns out. This is a brand new meat for me. I've never tried this before, and I was really impressed with how good it tastes. Let's get started making our soup. The first thing I'm going to do is add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I'm going to saute these onions. I'll cook them for about 3 minutes or so. Okay, the onions are sauteed. Now I'm going to add 2 bags of frozen broccoli. I did steam those in the microwave for 5 minutes just to sort of get the cooking started a little bit quicker. I'm also going to add 4 cups of chicken broth, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and 1.5 cups of milk. I'm going to allow this to come to a boil, and then I'll turn it down and simmer it for about 10 minutes. The soup has been simmering for probably 15 minutes or so. I think the broccoli is tender and ready to go. I'm gonna just chop it up a little bit so that there's not such big pieces, but I started with broccoli florets, so there's not any big thick stem pieces in here. If there weren't any stems, they were already chopped up. You can also use an immersion blender if your people just really will balk at these big pieces of broccoli. Whatever you need to do at this step, but I'm just gonna chop them in smaller pieces. Last step is I'm gonna add 2 cups of freshly shredded cheddar cheese. You can go as heavy or light on the cheese as you would like. We really like cheese, so gonna make sure and have plenty in there. And then I'm just gonna stir this until it's melted, and I'm gonna move it to the crock pot to keep warm. It's gonna be a super easy soup, ready in just about 20 minutes. As I'm looking at this soup, I'm seeing how thin it is, and I don't really like thin broccoli and cheese soup, so I'm gonna add a slurry to try to thicken it up. I'm gonna use a cornstarch slurry, but you can also use flour, but I just used 1 tablespoon cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of water. You can also do the same with flour. That should thicken the soup up pretty good. That way it won't be quite so thin. I've got all of my ingredients prepped. I have browned my 1 pound of ground beef and 1 large onion in my iron skillet. I'm gonna add that to this slow cooker. Okay, now I'm going to add 1 quart or 4 cups of broth. Technically, you should use beef broth. I don't have beef broth, I just have chicken broth. It's gonna do just fine. It might just alter the flavor just a little bit. I've chopped up 4 large, maybe it was 5 large potatoes. I'm gonna put those in. 3 large carrots, I'm gonna add those. I'm gonna add 1 large can of diced tomatoes. Actually, this is crushed tomatoes. 1/4 cup of mustard and 1/4 cup ketchup. I'm gonna add a couple of teaspoons of salt and a little bit of black pepper. I'm gonna give all of this a good stir so that all the flavors will cook together nicely. Okay, I'm gonna put the lid on this and put it on high for about 4 or 5 hours. Okay, the soup has been cooking for several hours and we are almost ready to eat. So I'm going to mix in the last few ingredients. Honestly, right now this looks like a glorified vegetable soup. So let's see how this turns out. I'm going to add 1 cup of milk, 2 cups of shredded cheese, and I have some bacon that I had fried up earlier. I'm going to add almost 1 cup of bacon and stir all of that together. As I'm looking at it, I think I'm going to add 1 more cup of milk just to balance that out a bit. I'm going to turn the burner on about medium or medium high. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm going to saute 1 onion that I have diced. The onions have sauteed for quite a while, probably about 4 minutes. I'm going to add a little bit of fresh garlic, about 2 cloves worth. I'm going to allow that to saute for another 3 minutes or so. Now I'm going to add 1 large can of crushed tomatoes, 2 cups of broth. You can use vegetable broth or chicken broth. I'm going to pour this into my tomato can so that I can get all of that extra tomato that wanted to stick in the bottom. If we paid for it, we might as well not throw it in the garbage. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of pepper, and 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I'm going to stir all of this together, try to get all of those seasonings incorporated really well. Then I'm going to allow this to rise to a boil. Okay, our soup has been simmering for probably 20 minutes. I'm going to add the last 2 ingredients. I've got 1 cup of cream. I'm going to pour that in. Give that a good stir. Hopefully this is going to combine well. Sometimes when you add cream to such an acidic soup, you can get a little bit of strange things happening chemically. So hopefully this will work out. I'm going to add 1 cup of regular milk, and that looks absolutely delicious. This was really such a simple and easy recipe. Almost as easy as opening a can of Campbell's tomato soup. So I hope that you give this a try. I'm going to serve it with a couple pieces of cheese toast that I have cooked in the oven, and I think this is going to be a delicious dinner. I'm going to go ahead and saute my 2 bell peppers and 1 onion. I'm going to go ahead and cook these for just a little bit to soften them up. In the bottom of my crock pot, I'm going to add 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste, 1 large can of crushed tomatoes. I'm going to blend that together. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my seasonings. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cumin, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a couple of teaspoons of salt, and I'm going to mix all of that together. This is green chilies. It's pretty hot, I'm afraid. I'm scared of hot. So I'm going to add 1/3 cup of this and hope it doesn't burn me up. Okay. Now I can go ahead and add my shredded chicken. This is just a chicken that I had deboned, a rotisserie chicken. I think I'm going to do a video about ways that we can use rotisserie chicken in different recipes to make really quick and easy suppers and still have nourishing ingredients. That's really important, but it's really hard to do sometimes to get good ingredients in when you don't have a lot of time. Okay, now it's time for me to add my vegetables. And give this one last really good stir. This is really thick. I'm not going to do anything right now. If it stays this thick, I may add a little bit of broth to it toward the end. But right now, I'm just going to put the lid on this, cook it on high for about 4 hours. See how it's looking, if it's going to be a soupy or at least a stew-like consistency. If it needs a little more liquid, we can add it then. Our soup has been cooking for quite a while, and it is definitely done. It started to sort of burn on the sides. I don't think I'm going to add any more liquid. I had thought about it, but I think I'll just leave it as it is and have it just sort of a thicker stew. I have some tortilla chips. I think I'm going to put that in the bottom of the bowl and just put the soup on top. I have some sour cream. I'm going to put that on top. And I have some fresh cilantro, which is my very favorite. I'm gonna put a little bit of cilantro on top, and I think this is gonna be a delicious filling dinner on this cold winter day. This is affectionately referred to as chicken stuff in our family. It is a favorite of my stepmom's. She made it all the time, so it's sort of a little piece of my childhood. I think everybody loves it because it's just so creamy and delicious. So we're gonna add about a cup of cream of soup. We're gonna add about the same amount of sour cream, and then we're gonna use plenty of chicken broth, about 3 cups, to make sure that the rice has plenty of liquid to absorb and cook completely during the cooking process. I'm going to mix all of that together, and then I'm going to pour about a cup of rice in the bottom of the casserole dish. I'm going to top the rice with about 2 cups of shredded chicken, and then pour all of this creamy chicken mixture on top of that and top it with some breadcrumbs that I've mixed with butter. I used about a half a cup of butter and 1 cup of breadcrumbs. Put it in a 350-degree oven to bake for about 45 minutes to an hour, long enough to make sure that the rice is nice and done, and when it comes out of the oven, it's going to be piping hot and ready to eat. I served ours with a baked sweet potato, and it was an absolutely delicious dinner. Let's make some delicious buffalo sliders. These were super good and very easy. I'm going to shred 1 large chicken breast that I have already cooked ahead of time. I'm going to add to that 1/2 cup of hot sauce and 1/2 cup of ranch. I'm going to mix all of that together with 1 block of cream cheese. Make sure you combine all of these ingredients really well before you move on to the next step. Now, I had found some buffalo garlic spread at Aldi that was like 40 cents on sale. So I spread a bit of that on our sliders. That's completely optional. I'm sure that you could either leave it out completely, or if you can't find the buffalo garlic dip, you can just add a little bit more ranch if you prefer. I'm going to spoon a hearty portion of this chicken mixture onto each of the sliders and then top them with a little bit of crumbled blue cheese. I'm going to serve mine with some baby carrots and some potato chips. If you're anything like me and a little afraid of hot sauce because you're not really a fan of those spicy foods, there really wasn't any spicy heat. You tasted more of the vinegar flavor in this hot sauce. So rest assured, this is not going to light you up when you take a bite. It's just going to be a super easy and delicious dinner. Let's make a cornbread chicken casserole. This was really good. It got a lot of good reviews from the family, so I think this is definitely one you're going to want to give a try. I'm going to make the cornbread mixture first. I'm going to add 2 cups of cornmeal and 1 cup of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and a half teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix all of my dry ingredients together, and then I'm going to add 2 eggs and a 1/4 cup of olive oil. You can use any oil you would prefer, and then add 1 cup of milk. It would be better if you had buttermilk, but I didn't have any buttermilk in the refrigerator, so I just opted to use regular sweet milk, and it turned out just fine. Mix everything together until it's well combined, and then set that to the side while you mix up your casserole ingredients. I had already cooked this chicken. You can also use a rotisserie chicken. It's just 1 large chicken breast. I'm going to shred all of that chicken And then I'm gonna add 1 cup of cream of chicken mixture and 1 cup of frozen corn. I probably should have mixed all of this in a separate bowl, but I just was saving dishes, so I mixed everything together in the casserole dish. That's why it looks a little bit messy. But mix all of those ingredients together. I felt like it was still missing something, so I'm gonna add 1 cup of sour cream and mix that in. Pat it all down evenly, and then it's time to pour over the cornbread mixture. I'm gonna place it in the 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes or so. I let the broiler brown the cornbread just a little bit too long, so don't do what I did and over brown the cornbread. No one had any complaints. It didn't even really taste burnt, even though it looks a little too brown. And this was a surprisingly good casserole dinner. I think if you have a little bit extra corn, it might be really good to add it into the cornbread mixture when you pour it over the top of the casserole. Bake it up, and this is going to be a delicious family favorite. So this one is really easy to prepare as well, but I wanted to make my own homemade enchilada sauce, so I went ahead and made that ahead of time. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of oil. I used bacon grease and it did turn out really good, but I usually use olive oil and it turns out fine as well. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of flour. I'm going to mix the flour into the oil really well, allowing it to cook over medium-high heat for about a minute or so, just to allow the flour flavor to dissipate. Then I'm going to add 1/4 cup of chili powder and 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to allow that to cook for another minute while I'm stirring it to prevent it from scorching. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of chicken broth. Whisk that in, and then just whisk it periodically while it's cooking on medium heat until the sauce is nice and thickened. After your enchilada sauce is ready, it's time to layer all of the ingredients in the casserole pan. I'm going to chop up 2 or 3 cups of chicken. I'm going to add that to a bowl and mix it well with 1 block of cream cheese. I'm also going to add 1 can of drained and rinsed black beans and about a cup or so of cheddar cheese. I'm going to mix all of that together well with 1 cup of our enchilada sauce. When everything is nice and combined, I'm going to layer the ingredients in a casserole dish. I'm going to start by putting about 1/2 cup of enchilada sauce and spreading that on the bottom of the pan. And then I'm going to crush up about 1 cup of tortilla chips. I'm going to spread half of our chicken mixture over the tortilla chips, and then I'm going to top that layer with about 1/2 cup of shredded cheese. I'm going to repeat those layers and finish it off with the remaining enchilada sauce, a few more crushed tortilla chips, and about another 1/2 cup of shredded cheese. I'm going to bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes until all of the cheese is nicely melted and all of the flavors have had plenty of time to bake together. This casserole was a nice change from the normal chicken enchiladas that we have a lot of times for dinner. The casserole aspect of it just made it super easy to put together. There's just something about the ease of making a casserole for dinner. You can make it ahead of time, put it in the oven right before it's time to eat dinner, and it just makes dinner time so much simpler. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you will give all of these recipes a try. They were all super frugal and easy to prepare, healthy, nutritious meals for our family, and I was really glad that my family seemed to like every single one of them. Also, let's make sure and keep the conversation going down in the comment section. I would love to hear about your family's favorite dinners, and also be sure to let me know if you have any requests for future videos. It always helps me to know the kinds of videos that you're looking for so that I can create healthy, nourishing meal ideas with you each and every week. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.